Hello everyone, welcome back to the Netbeans e-commerce tutorials. Today I will present Unit 11, Securing the Application. The purpose for this series of presentation is to help my students to understand how to use Netbeans IDE to build an e-commerce application. All materials in this presentation come from Netbeans.org website. The students can download Snapshot 10 from the above website as the starting point. The tasks we will finish in this unit of tutorial are the following. First, we will understand the security issues of a web application. Then, we will examine the project snapshot. We will add more customer and order information to the database. We will fix the snapshot issue. We will fix some database issue. You might say, no, not again. Why the database issue again? Because we missed something when we design our data model. If you pay attention to the last unit, our project will not display the date that the customer order is processed. So we need to go back to fix the date created column in the customer order table. Then we will set up form-based authentication. Then we'll set up user groups and roles. Then we will configure secure data transport. Again, all the materials in this presentation come from Netbeans.org website. Our first task is to understand the security issue of a web application. When we try to secure a web application, we have two primary concerns. First is the access control. That is to prevent unauthorized user from gaining access to the protected content. There are normally two steps involved. First step, authentication, which is to check if a user is the one who he or she claims to be. Second is authorization. This is to decide if we need to grant or delay the user access to the requested resource. The second primary concern is protected data where it is in transit. This typically involves using transport layer security, which is TLS, or its predecessor, secure circuit layer, in order to encrypt any data communicated between the client and the server. So for a forward-beam application, we need to consider the following functionality. First, we need to set up a login form for the administration console that enables staff members access to the console's servers and blocks unauthorized users. Second, we need to configure secure data transport for both the customer checkout process and for any data transmitted to and from the administration console. To implement the above functionalities, we need to take advantage of Netbeans virtual editor for the web.xml deployment descriptor. We need to work in the Glassfish administration console to configure a user group that corresponds to a forward-beam staff members to verify SSL support. Our next task is to examine the project snapshot. We will use project snapshot 10, which can be downloaded from tutorials website. Let us open the Netbeans IDE. Then I already opened a forward-beam project snapshot 10. So let's try to run the project. If you click on debug, then you will see there is an error message warning could not find the user basically, which is this GSTL11 class path to copy. Okay, so if you open here, you will see there is GSTL11. If we use find GSTL11, then we say we totally found two match. So my suggestion is we just delete this 11. I don't know why there is a 11 here. Let us just delete the 11. Then run the project. We just need to wait a moment. Maybe I should run first, but if I run first, I will not see you the error message, right? So we just wait. Take for a while to deploy, to debugging. Okay. Now we got this. Remember, we still set up our website, a web browser as check as the preferred language. Okay. Let us go through the process for shopping, and I proceeded to check out. Remember, we typed some main before. Phone number is not correct. Click this phone number, then address is main, the credit card. Then I submit. Now you notice we have another problem. The problem is the date to create it not show up. Let's go back to the Netbeans IDE to check what we just put in the database. First, let us make a connection for this database. Netbeans user. Wrong password. MB user. Okay, connected. Then I go to the F4 bin. You go to the tables. For example, you want to check the customer order, right? Let's view the data. Okay, execute the customer order. Now see the result. You see the date created column is null. That's why there is no date show up. Okay, so how to fix this problem? We probably need to go back to our F4 bin model. We did it before. Then I will check this date created before. I did not check, not allow. So now I check it, and I give him a default value, which is current time stamp. Okay, I use this. Then I re-forward to the re-forward engineer. Go through this process again. Sorry about this. Okay, then we close. Now your database completely changed. Now everything gone because he will erase all the older one. For example, now you check the category. If you look, the category has nothing. So we already know what to do before. We go back to this F4 bin, connect the application to the database. We copy some of his MySQL. Go over this again. Okay, then execute. Now, then I go back to here. Copy all those, which is those are all the things will be your product. Then I execute those statements. Then execute, and little errors happen. Okay, we of course still can verify if everything is correct. So what you can do, for example, you can do something. You go to the category, view data. If you see the result, now you have all the category. Then you go to the product, view data. Then you look at it. You have all this product. So we fix our database again. Before we continue, let's go copy some data to our empty database first. Let's go to his tutorial website and section 11, unit 11, securing application. Let's go to here, F4 bin sample data SQL. Okay. Now I want to copy all those to my database. You probably want to do this with an empty database. So before you do that, make sure all your table are empty. Otherwise, you might have some error messages, say some kind of, particularly for the ordered product, you might have some error message there. Okay, let us go back here. After copy, I click on any of those view data. Oh no, I really don't need that. I basically need this window, so I just paste. So I paste all those things. Now then I execute those MySQL statement. So you see zero error occurs. Okay. Again, if you did not input all your data table, particularly if you do not input your ordered product table, then you might have some errors. So anyhow, in that case, I'll re-forward the engineer to the database to clean up all those tables, rebuild the database with the correction. Not really waste time because we need to make those table empty anyway. So in order to use his data. Okay. After we done that, let us run the project. Then I follow the shopping process one time, check out, quick do this, email, telephone, address, and the credit card. Then I submit it. Now this time you see the date displayed because we fix our database. Also, from here, if I probably I close it, rerun the project to be safe. Rerun the project, and from here I go to the admin. Okay, then the admin is cancel already. The layout he already built for you. If you view the all customers, you can see all the customers. Like our customer Mark Bohm is the last one we imported. Okay, if you view all the orders, then there is all orders. Our customer order, which is we just did today. You can view detail for each customer records by hovering your mouse and selecting the individual record. For example, let's view the customer we just added today by ourselves. Then you can see the customer details. You can view the order summary from the customer details. Click on this order summary. You also can click on this order. From here, you can see the order summary. Okay, so naturally, none of this information should be available to an anonymous site visitor. In the coming steps, we will create login and error pages so that when an unauthenticated user attempts to access the administration console, he or she will be directed to the login page. Upon successful login, the user is then redirected to the administration console's menu. Upon login failure, the error page is displayed. Now let's examine the project snapshot in the project window. Go to the Netbeans IDE. We will see this implementation of the administration console primarily rely on the following project resource. First is the admin directory within the project's web root, which contains all page view files. If you expand this web page, you will see there is an admin directory. This is new for this snapshot 10. If you expand it, you will see this is JSPF subfolder that have footer, header or here and have index JSP. We will add more page views here. Then there is another one is admin servlet, which contained in the controller package, which forwards request to page views within the admin directory. If you go to the source package, you go to the controller, you will see there is an admin servlet.java. This is responsible to forward the request to page views within the admin directory. Also, the following file have been updated since the last snapshot, previous snapshot. If you click on the web XML, then you will see there is a new group of GSP property group. In this new group, you will see he defined here. Now, GSP configuration for the admin console, if this admin/index.jsp, which is admin's index.jsp, then he's included the header, which is admin gspf header.jspf, and include the footer, which admin/jspf footer.jspf. Okay. Also, this CSS file, we need to look at here. This CSS file also added the definition for the new style that show up in admin, his index.jsp, and his footer and header. Let us look, see if there is, you can find some. Yeah, here. Admin's styles. You have admin logo, login box, admin menu, and admin menu, admin table, all this style. Okay, for the admin. So you also updated this. If you have been follow the Netbeans e-commerce tutorial sequentially, you will find that there is nothing contained in implementation for the administration console which hasn't already been covered in previous units. Essentially, the admin servlet process request from the admin/index.jsp page. EJBs and entity classes are employed to retrieve information from the database, and the information is then forwarded back to the admin/index.jsp page to be displayed. Now, in the browser, let us click on here. Then we'll return to the FOBOBIN index place. Now, if you follow the business process simulator customer shopping, then you go to checkout, and note that checkout process is handed over a line secure channel. Okay, when customers reach the checkout page, they are expected to submit sensitive personal information in order to complete their orders. Part of your task in this tutorial unit is to ensure that this data is sent over a secure channel, because the administration console also enables authenticated user to view customers' personal information. Its tool needed to be configured so that the data is sent over the internet securely. Therefore, our next task is to set up form-based authentication. There are two kinds of security. First is declarative security, which uses annotation and/or deployment descriptor to specify all security settings, including authentication requirement, access control, and security rules. Second is programmatic security. The classes, entities, servlets, and page views manage security themselves. A FOBOBIN will use declarative security. So we need to pick a mechanism to implement this authentication. Authentication mechanism is used to determine how a user gains access to the restricted content. Java EE supports various authentication mechanisms, including HTTP basic authentication, form-based authentication, and client authentication. A FOBOBIN application will use form-based authentication. This has the following functionality. It will enable the server to authenticate the user based on the credential they enter into a login form. With this credential, the server is able to make a decision on whether to grant the user access to the protected resource or not. To implement the form-based authentication, we need two steps. First, we create pages for login and login failure, that is error pages. Second, we add security entries to the deployment descriptor. Now, if we look at the form-based authentication, the process of authentication and authorization is shown in the following picture. There are 4 steps. First, the client sends a request to the server for a protected resource. The server then recognizes that a protected resource has been requested and returns the login page to the client. The client sends the username and password credential use the provided form. Then the server processes the credential, and if an authorized user is identified, the protected resource is returned. Otherwise, the error page is returned. You look at here. Okay, he uses security check, then check if successful check. That means this client is an authorized person. Then they will redirect it to the resource. Otherwise, will redirect it to the error page. Now, let us create login and error pages. Go to admin, right click admin, click on new. I want the new JSP files. So new JSP. I type the name, one called login.jsp, and this is, yeah. So I click on finish. Then I right click on new JSP. I click on arrow. Then in the admin, then I just click on finish. Okay. Then I want to go to this web.xml file. I just click on Control Shift O. Go to the file. I want to type web. Okay, here. Then I click on OK. Now, what I want edit this JSP property group, because this time I want admin arrow.jsp has this header, and admin login.jsp will have this header. So what I'm going to do, I will go to, you can type it, okay? You can copy and paste. For example, you can copy this line, then paste it 2 times, then you just change the index to arrow and change the index to login. You can do that. That's one way. Another way, you can use his graphic user interface. You click on the general tab. Let's see. I believe probably need to go to the pages. Yeah, click on the pages tab. Then you click on this JSP group admin. You click on this. Then, okay, you can browse this admin. Then you click on arrow, select the file. Then you select again admin, log in, you select the file. Okay, now you go to the source. You see he automatically add this for you. Okay, of course, as I said, you can just copy this line, then paste it twice. Just copy this login index line, then you paste it twice, then you change index to login and arrow. That's also okay. Okay, this step ensure that when these 2 pages are returned to a client, they will be prepended and appended with the defined header.jspf and footer.jspf fragment, respectively. Okay. Now, let us go to the login page. We delete all those code we don't need. I believe I can delete everything here. Let us delete everything here. Okay. Then enter the following code. I want a form. Okay. In this form, I will have action. This action will j security check, and the method equal post. Okay. Then I have div. then deal with this ID equal login box. Then I will have a paragraph P. Then first I will have a string. Some of them cannot have a string, okay. Some of them is not do it fast enough. Username. Okay. Then we say this is input. Type equal text, size equal 20. You see, we can take advantage of name equal. We can take advantage of this IDE. They give you hint, you just hit indicate to accept it. Okay, that's good. Now I will do the same thing for the password. Well, one easy way to do this is I just copy and paste, just change the name to the password, right? Copy and paste. Now remember, change this to password, and I will change this name to JPassword. Okay. Now finally, I will have a P. Then I will have input. And the type equal submit, and the value equal submit. So with the help of the GSP, we can implement very fast. So we got this one done for the index. Okay. Now let's go to the arrow page. Arrow page again, we delete everything. Then I will just input the following code: div. That is strange. Okay, div. Then I want the ID equal login box, and I want the paragraph P class equal arrow, and I type in valid username for password. Okay, then have another P. Then I want to type in code return to have a string in there. This string I use have a link href equal login.jsp, and I will close it. Probably here, since it's a link, I will type a slash here. Okay. Now you notice your tutorial misses this slash. Okay. Then I say admin login. Oh, we didn't miss a slash. We put the slash a here. My mistake. So in that case, I should accept that. Okay. Now, after this, I think everything is fine, right? Okay. So we finished the first step, created the login page and the arrow page. Okay. Now let us add security entity to the deployment descriptor. Okay. First, let us open the web page, web.xml. I can definitely easy to find it. If you cannot find it, you can always use Ctrl Shift O. Okay. open this again. Now you from here we click on the security tab. Then I want put the login configuration. Login configuration, I choose the form, and for the login page I will browse. Either the login page will be the login JSP. Then for this arrow page I will browse, and I want this arrow page be arrow.jsp. Okay, then the real name called file. Okay, we will use the file real. Now that's it. Then if you check the source, then you will see he already add the login configuration. You see, if without IDE, you should type this manually, but with IDE, you just click on the graphic user interface, you got everything done. Okay, now let's click on the security tab again. This time I want to add the security roles. So I want this role name called affordable bin admin. Admin. Well, you can add a description, but we don't do anything. Also fine. Affordable bin admin. Okay. Now if you look at the source, now it says security role. We don't have any description, but the role name is affordable bin admin. Okay. Click the security tab again, then click on add security constraint. In the display name, we type in admin. Then under the viable resource collection, we click on add. Then the resource name, type on affordable bin administration. Then the description, you don't have to do it. URL patterns is admin /star. That means all the things in the admin folder. Then use HTTP methods. Then you click on OK. Now, then we check on enable authentication constraints. You don't have to enter any description, but you need a role name. You can click on the editor. Since all the roles you want to have a affordable bin administrator, so you just add. Then you click on OK. Okay. Now, then you go to the source. You will see there is a login configuration. You have the security constraint. Okay. You have the security constraint displayed here. Okay. Now, in these steps, you have created a security constraint that specifies which resource need to be protected and identifies the roles that are granted access to them. Since the administration console implementation is essentially everything contained within the application's admin folder, you use a wildcard star here. Although you have specified all HTTP methods should be protected, where we see that here, if you look at this viable resource collection, you want to look at it, you say all HTTP methods will be protected, okay? But you could have equally just selected get and post, since these are the only two that are handled by the admin servlet. As previously mentioned, the affordable bin admin role that we declared still need to be created on the Glassfish server. Now let's run the project. Wait a moment. Then it created as this. So I put a type of admin here. Okay, you see they have admin console, username, and password. If you just click on submit, now invalid username or password, return to admin login. If you click on that, will return back to admin login. Much of our security implementation depends on configuration between the application and the Glassfish server we're using. This involves setting up users, groups, and roles between the two, and using one of the pre-configured security policy domain or RIMs on the server. So we first need to understand what are users, groups, and roles. Basically, a user is a unique identity recognized by the server. A group is a set of authenticated users. A role is an abstract name for the permission to access to a particular set of resources in an application. You can understand a role like a key that can open a lock. Many people might have a copy of the key, so many people might have the same role. The lock doesn't care who you are, only that you have the right key. So the server don't care who you are, only if you are the right role, so you can be able to access the resource that allow that kind of role to access. So the role that a user and a group is assigned to is what specifically allows the server to determine whether protected resource can be accessed. Users and groups can be assigned to multiple roles, as will be demonstrated below. You accomplish this by defining the role in the application, then mapping it to users and groups on the server. The relationship between users, groups, and roles, and the process in which you establish them in the application and on the server is presented in the following diagram. So you say we first create users and or groups on the server. Then we define roles in the application. Then we map roles to the users and the groups. Next, we need to understand what is the RIM and the Glassfish server. When you define users and groups on the server, you do so by entering details into a security policy domain, otherwise known as a RIM. So a RIM is a security policy domain. It protects user credentials through an authentication scheme. So for example, user credential can be stored in a local text file or maintained in a certificate database. Glassfish server provides three pre-configured RIMs by default. First is the file. So the file named key file. Or second, admin RIM also store credentials in a local file. Third is certificate RIMs. That means you store the credential in a certificate database. For a football administration console, we use the server's pre-configured file RIM. So in the next, we will follow the three steps we discussed before to do so. First, we create users and or groups on the server. Then we define roles in the application. Then we map roles to users and or groups. Let's do our first step, create users and or groups on the server. On the Netbeans football bean project Snapshot 10, I click on servers, then I expand the servers, make sure the Glassfish server is running, then I right click on it, then view domain admin console. According to your tutorial, you might need to input a username as admin, password as admin to log in, but it seems like mine is already in. Okay, then you look at these configurations. I have two. I choose the server configure. Okay, the server configure. Then I will choose security. Then I will choose the RIMs. Then we'll choose the file. So I will use the file RIM. In this file RIM, I will manage the users. Click on manage user. Then I need to have a new user. Okay, this new user ID will be MB user, and the group list will be a football bean admin. Then I type the password is secret and confirm the password secret. Okay, then I click on OK. After click on OK, then click on you see I have a new user called MB user, and his group belong to football being admin. Then I go back, then I save it. Our next step is to define roles in the application. By defining roles in the application, you specify which role have access to EJB session beans, servlets, and or specific methods that they contain. You can accomplish this declaratively by creating entries in the deployment descriptor or using annotations. For the FOBOBIN administration console, we have actually already completed this step when we added the FOBOBIN admin role to the security constraint that we created when implementing form-based authentication. However, in more complicated scenarios, you might have multiple roles, each with varied degree of access. In such case, implementation requires a more fine-grained access control. The Java EE API includes various security annotations that you can use in place of the XML entries you added to deployment descriptor. The availability of annotations primarily aims to offer ease of development and flexibility when coding. One common method is to use annotations within classes, but override them when necessary using deployment descriptor. So we will discuss using security annotations in servlet and using security annotations in EJBs. First, let us see how to use security annotation in servlet. So at the servlet 3.0 security annotations, we have two of them. We can use at servlet security, which is used to specify security constraints to be enforced by servlet container on HTTP protocol messages. Another one is add HTTP constraint, which is used within the servlet security annotations to represent the security constraints to be applied to all HTTP protocol methods. So if we want to apply this servlet 3.0 annotations to declare the FOBOBIN admin role and admin servlet, we could do like this. Let us go to this code part. In the project, go to the admin servlet Java. Then I just add the annotation here. I say add servlet security then add HTTP constraint, then rows allowed, equal FOBOBIN admin. Okay, then we type Command Shift in to fix all this input. Now, if you do so, then you need to go back to the Bible XML, go to the source. You need to delete all those security constraint, this part, and the security roles, because you really don't need this. So I need to start from here. Security constraint. Okay, FOBOBIN admin, all those you can delete. Now I just push command slash commands them away. Okay, then for the security role, I also highlighted command slash to commands them away. I really don't need this. So this is use security annotation in servlet. We also can use security annotation in EJB. So if you look at the EJB security annotations, we have add declare roles annotation used by application to declare roles. It can be specific on a class. We also have annotation add roles allowed, specific the list of roles permitted to access methods in an application. To demonstrate using EJB security annotation, we will apply the add rows allowed annotation to a method that should only be called when a user has been identified as belong to the affordable bin admin role. Let's open the customer order facade. This class is in the session package. Customer order facade. Then you will see there is a manually created method called public customer order found by customer. This method enables the admin servlet to access to a specified customer. Okay. Now we want add annotation. That means not everybody can call this method. If the person have a role as a affordable bin admin. So I add annotation, add rows allowed annotation. This any allow affordable bin admin. Okay. Then I press Command Shift I to fix the import. Okay. So you notice this JavaX data annotation, data security, data rows allowed has been imported on the top of this file. Please notice in this affordable bin application, the found by customer method is only called by the admin servlet, which is previously authenticated into affordable bin admin role using our implementation of form-based authentication. So the use of the add rows allowed annotation here is not strictly necessary. Its application simply guarantees that the method can only be called by a user who has been authenticated in the affordable bin admin role. Our next step is to map roles to users and/or groups. So far, we have accomplished the following two things. First, we defined the affordable bin admin role for our form-based authentication mechanism. We can do this in two ways. We either use web.xml deployment descriptor or we use an annotation in the admin servlet. Second, we created a user named MB user on the Glassfish server and associated it with a group named affordable bin admin. So our next step is to map affordable bin admin role in application to the affordable bin group on server. We can take one of the following two actions to accomplish this. We either create a security role mapping entry in Glassfish's sun-web.xml deployment descriptor, or we enable Glassfish's default principle to role mapping services so that roles are automatically assigned to groups of the same name. If you recall that the roles in application is called affordable bin admin, and the group on server is also called affordable bin admin. Okay, let us do the first action first. In the first action, you need to go to the project, then you open the sun-web.xml. If you open this, you can see there is a security tab. You can add a security role mapping. For example, security role you can call affordable bin admin, right? Then you can add a group. The group name also called affordable bin admin. You click on OK. Okay. Now, after you done this, you go back to the XML. You will see there is a security role mapping already here. This on your tutorial, he said you can manually type this, but as I said, we can take advantage of the IDE, his graphic user interface, so we can easily to add this code. We do not have to type it. Okay, we don't want to do this way, so we can use command slash to commence this entry away. So let us say how to do it by using the second method. So we still go back to services, expand the servers, then make sure the Glassfish server is running. Then you right click it, click on View Domain Admin Console. And again, we need to go to the server configure. We need to go to the security. Under security, the main panel, you make sure this called default principal to role mapping is enabled. Okay, so you enable this, then you click on save. Now the new value successfully saved. Now we can begin to run our project. Go back to here. Let us run the project. When the application open here, let us type the admin. Okay, then you will have the console. Now you type the password we just created called mb user and the password called secret. Then you submit. Okay, now you can go to view all customers. Okay, then you can view all orders. Okay, now if you click on the logout, then you will log out. Please notice that the admin servlet handles the /logout URL pattern by invalidating the user's session. Let us go back to IDE. If you open admin servlet.java, you will notice how he handles this logout URL pattern. He basically get the session, then call session.invalidate method. Calling invalidate terminates the user session. As a consequence, the authenticated user is dissociated from the active session and would need to log in again in order to access protected resource. Our last task is to configure secure data transport. There are two instances in the affordable bin application that require a secure connection when data is transmitted over the internet. The first one is when a user initiates a checkout process. On the checkout page, a user must fill in his or her personal details to complete an order. This sensitive data must be protected while it is sent to the server. The second one is when a user logs into the administration console, as the console is used to access sensitive data that is customer and order details. So secure data transport is typically implemented by using TLS or SSL. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. SSL stands for Secure Circuit Layer. When HTTP is applied on the top of TLS or SSL protocol, it provides both encrypted communication and secure identification of the server. The combination of HTTP and TLS or SSL results HTTPS. The Glassfish server has a HTTPS service enabled by default. It is adequate for development. However, the production server requires a certificate signed by a trusted third party. So we have two subtasks to accomplish in this last task. We first verify HTTPS support on server. Then we configure secure connection in the application. First, let us verify HTTPS support on the server. On the IDE, make sure your Glassfish server is run. How do you know Glassfish server is run? If you see this green little triangle here. Then let's switch to the web browser. We use Firefox here. If I type in https //localhost, I need to give him the port number 8181 slash. Then you will say your server is now running. Please notice there is a lock sign here. So he said you have added a security exception for this site. Since I have added, that's why I skipped 2 steps on your tutorial. I don't have the picture say the connection is untrusted. Well, I add the exceptions and confirm security exception. I don't have these two steps since I already have added a security exception for this site. Okay. Now let's open Glassfish Administration Console in the browser. I can either use the port number 4848 or I can go to the IDE. You right click on it, then you view domain admin console. Okay. Now let me use this way. You say the local host, his port number is 4848. Okay. Now in the tree which display in the left column of the administration console, expand the configuration. We already expanded this, and we want to configure networking configure. So I click on here, and now I probably expand it. Then he did say network listener. So I click on it, network listener. Okay, in this network listener, they have admin listener 4848, HTTP listener 8080, then have HTTP listener 2 8181. Okay, you notice this. Now, under the name column, click on link of HTTP lesson 2. Click on this link. Then you will say schedule enabled, security enabled. Then if you click on SSL, you will say TLS is enabled. If you go down, then you will say there are cipher suits are available. Now, according to your tutorial, he recite some paragraph from the Oracle Glassfish Server Administration Guidance for the version 3.0.1 Glassfish Server. We actually use 4.1, but I believe they will be similar. It says a cipher is a cryptography algorithm used for encryption or decryption. SSL and TLS protocols support a variety of cipher used to authenticate the server and the client to each other, transmit certificates, and establish session keys. Some ciphers are stronger and more secure than others. Clients and servers can support different cipher suits. During a secure connection, the client and the server agree to use stronger cipher than they both have enabled for communication. So it is usually sufficient to enable all ciphers. So here we enable all the ciphers. Okay. So what we can do, if those cipher sort to added, you can add all. Available common cipher sort, you can add all. Okay. For example, if you want, you just do all this. Wow. You can add all. Okay. Now, then you save it. Okay. So our last step is configure secure connection in application. To this, we can do this by either specify secure connection, use XML in the web deployment descriptor, or we use servlet annotation directly in a servlet. So let us do one by one. First, we can open the project web.xml. Then I want the security. Then I do want to add a security constraint. Click on this. Then I say display name called checkout. Then I add a new viable resource collection. The resource name also called checkout. Then the description I can input it there. Then slash checkout, which is URL pattern. And since checkout is a method will be get, so I just select HTTP method is get. So I click on OK. Now, then you will enable user data constraint. You make sure this is checked. and this transport guarantee, I want it to be confidential. Okay, now I have added this. If you go to the source, you will see I just added something called security constraint. Okay, this is security constraint. The name is checkout. The resource collection is name is checkout, and the URL pattern is /checkout, and the method is get, and the user data constraint is confidential. Okay, we got all this. Now let us go to admin servlet.java. You can, of course, you can always use Control Shift O to go to the file to find it. Since we already expanded this, so we just directly click on servlet admin servlet.java. Now I want to add this. Use the HTTP constraint annotation transport guarantee element to specify confidential security constraint. So I can do this way. I can go to here. Okay, here is rows allowed. Before rows allowed, I will do this. Servlet. I will say add HTTP constraint, then add something transport guarantee equal transport guarantee dot confidential, comma. Then I have rows allowed and make it nice. Okay. Now, of course, I can always use Command Shift I to fix the input. Now, since cannot fix, that means I must did something wrong. Okay, here, let us check. So I have add servlet security, then I have HTTP constraint, then I have transport guarantee equal transport guarantee dot confidential. Let's see what's wrong here. Cannot find the symbol transport guarantee. So transport guarantee. I only have one T. I have two T here, so it's a lot of correct. Now I use Command Shift I. Now I can fix the input. Okay. Now, then, if I run project now, and we select the product category, let's switch to English. Then add several products to the shopping cart. Then I proceed to checkout. Now you notice once you proceed to checkout, you pay attention, then he automatically switch to 8181 port, which make it a secure connection. Okay. So then if you go through the process, your data will be submitted through a secured channel. You have now successfully secured a forwarding application according to the defined customer requirement. You have set up a login form for the administration console to authorize or deny access based on the user's credential. And you configured the application and the server to create a secure connection for access to the administration console as well as the customer checkout process. Now you can download the complete forwarding project snapshot from the website. The complete project includes the secure implementation demonstrated in this unit and also provide a basic implementation for web page error customization, such as when a request for a non-existent resource made, then the server will return HTTP 404 not found error message. Acknowledgement. This is the end of Unit 11. The next is Unit 12, Testing and Profiling. Again, all the materials in this presentation come from Netbeans.org website. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.